that's what you should expect from a team that's as young and as inexperienced and still growing. You're the guy that always tells me, hey, guys, growth isn't linear. It isn't linear. I mean, how many times have you told me that? This is part of your nonlinear growth. So I guess you can sit here and get pissed off and be all irritated. Great. Go ahead. I'm not there today. I'm just not.
There is a wide swath of space between disgusting, disappointing, whatever it was you just said, season and football team, and where they have ended up in what had been a promising season, right? Like, you were touting them in a... What are you rolling your eyes for? Look, if you want to say everything's hunky-dory, go ahead. That's fine. Go right ahead.
Because I'm not saying it's hunky-dory. They're a playoff team that had secured their playoff spot 2 weeks ago, in essence, and you're going to panic and freak out because they lost a glorified preseason game? I'm not there. Like, this is a team that I don't think can go this road. I think this road is going to be too difficult. And had they been able to beat the Detroit Lions a couple weeks ago, I think everything would have changed. It didn't. They didn't. Yeah. And maybe they're not ready to make that. They haven't been a consistent football team. But let's not act like this is some the bad news Bears type team. It's just not.
No one's saying that. They're in the playoffs, but you were touting them as better than the Eagles and better than the Vikings. Who are they better than right now?
I pulled back on the Eagles. They are not better than
They're not better than the Vikings either. And yesterday, they weren't better than the Bears, who are the bad news Bears.
They played
and I don't
Detroit
care if Malik Willis is at quarterback. I don't.
Well, they
are
did.
I don't understand. Help me understand.
What don't you understand?
You're almost. I don't understand where you're coming from today. I guess I expected a little more of a harsh critique.
Yesterday didn't move the needle for me. Jason, I feel the same way I did after they lost to the Vikings. Was I a little bit optimistic probably 6 weeks ago? Yes. I thought it was Detroit and Philly for a vast majority of the season and Green Bay right there with them. I was wrong about that. But I'm not wrong in the fact that there's 7 teams in this deal. Detroit has now put themselves at the top because they don't have to play, and they get to rest. But if you think, let me tell you something, if everybody thought this was such a no-doubter on Sunday, the spread wouldn't have started at 3 or 3.5. I'm sorry. Green Bay can beat Philadelphia. Now, am I going to pick them to? I don't know. But we're sitting here saying there's some huge chasm between both. There's just not. There is a chasm. But it's not a gulf. It's not some monster deal. And yesterday, if you're swayed at all by what you saw yesterday, I'm not in your camp. I can't help you. I'm not swayed. Other than Jordan's injury, yesterday meant nothing.
How about Christian Watson's injury?
It didn't. Were you counting on Christian Watson anyways, if we're being fair? Were you?
Yes. Against Philadelphia?
He hasn't been healthy. Jason, he hasn't been healthy. He hasn't been able to contribute. So it's hard for me to say.
That's not true at all. He injured his knee against the Saints.
How many full games has he gotten through?
Come on.
All right.
Come on.
I was not counting on big things from Chris. When he got hurt the last time, I kind of was thinking this might be his season. So I get it. If you want to sit here and say that they don't have a chance against Philly, great, go ahead.
That's not what I said. But we can't, all right, here's why I'm surprised by this, frankly. Because the guys in the locker room are concerned about the way they're doing. When Rashawn Gary and Xavier McKinney take control of the post-game, whatever you call that, when LaFleur talks, and get after the team, that's not an indicator to me of it's okay, these guys suck, and we didn't really try that hard. It's not a big deal. This didn't move the needle. Especially when Xavier McKinney does it. Because Xavier McKinney has not done anything like that earlier in the season. Losing Christian Watson when the head coach admits that if Romeo Doubs hadn't been sick, Christian Watson wouldn't have even played. And then he does play, and then he tears his ACL. When the head coach, I don't think it's as egregious as Homer did last night, but bungles the use of the timeout late in the game and then has to admit that he lost the game to his players. When all those things happen against a putrid football team that had lost 10 in a row and whose quarterback threw a bunch of bubble screens and couldn't throw the ball down the field until they needed a game-winning field goal, I think there's more wrong than just, they just lost to the Bears. They were going to be the 6th seed anyway. There is something to the way they're playing. They lost 5 of their 6 games in the division. The last team to do that was the best 4-12 team in NFL history, the team you were on in 2005.
Yeah.
They got 4 of their wins against the worst division in football, the AFC South. I'm not saying they can't beat the Eagles, but they are going to need a perfect performance. They are not as good as we thought they were. They just aren't. Okay. And I was wrong about them. I thought they were better.
So you have them, so they're ranked 7th in the NFC, right? And you can say, well, they had to play a tougher schedule than Tampa and the Rams and all that. They are a tier
Is that even true?
In the NFC. They are a tier 2 team. I don't know. You answer it. I am still more bullish than I think some people are. And you could say I'm a homer. Great. They are not in the same level, tier, however you want to look at it, as some of these other teams. But, yes, guys in the locker room need to have that attitude. That's how every time you go out and play, you want to win and you want to do it. But the bottom line is what we saw yesterday was a team, they gave stuff away. They lost to a team they should have never lost to. But I don't know where their urgency level was. And if you want to say that's a problem, great. I'm all for it. You can. But knowing how this works, they will reset and they will give Philadelphia their best shot. And is it going to be enough? If they played like they did yesterday, no. Do I think they have more to offer? I do. But they have proven over this season they have not been able to get over the hump against really good teams. Is that going to change? Probably not. But to sit here and act like we're worse than the Bears and that this was some season that was more disappointing, you have to look at this from where they were, what division they were in. They were in one of the best. Everybody talking about last night's game, the best regular season. Some people said the greatest regular season game of all time. I don't know if I'd go that far. But you have 2 teams that were head and shoulders above the entire rest of the deal that played last night, and 4 of your 5 losses were to those, 4 of those 5 losses before last night were to those teams. So I can't sit here and say, "Whoa, boy, it was it disappointing that they lost to Detroit and Minnesota? They had opportunities in 3 of those 4 games. They're young. You can't have it both ways and say this is a young team and they're a year away, they're growing, it's linear, all this other stuff, and expect them to do all this other stuff. You can't have it both ways, Jason. And I feel like that's kind of where you're at. They had a better year than they did last year. Are they playing as well as they did at the end of the season last year as they did? Obviously, Jordan is not. But I would argue our defense is better than what it was last year. Our special teams are better than what it was last year. Our running game is better than what it was last year. Those 3 things, Jordan Love is not playing as well. The passing game is not as good. All those things can still be true, Jason. And you can say, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Yeah, we don't. That's the beauty of sports.
I'm glad you're putting a happy face on this. I'm glad. That's great. I'm curious to see if our callers...
Is this defense better, playing better?
No. First of all, you're misusing the growth as linear thing. It's not linear. You're misusing that. Our expectations for this team were higher than what they have been. They raised the expectations. They did. And now suddenly, after they lost to the Bears and the Vikings to close out the regular season, now we're saying, they're the youngest team in the league again. Like, what are we doing here? Either we have expectations or we don't. And the expectation was they were going to be better than this.
Okay.
Well, no one's saying they didn't improve over last year. Jordan Love is not playing well. We crowned him, and we saw him get a $55 million a year contract.
Not arguing
He's not
that.
playing great.
Not going to
even
argue
before
that.
he got hurt. So all I'm saying is that I'm trying to understand where you're at on this team. Because for a while, you were very high on them, and now that they've played poorly, and look, they beat the Saints, right? They did a great job in that game.
Beat them bad, shut them out.
A very impressive win over a very bad Saints team. But, like, I'm confused as to how you view them now. I really am. I thought you would be more critical. You got after them after the Vikings game and talked about how Kevin O'Connell ate Matt LaFleur's lunch. How did Matt LaFleur coach yesterday? I don't hear any critique of him.
No, he stunk. What do you want me to sit here and keep beating him down? No, he had a bad. He admitted he butchered it. He was bad yesterday. Do you want me to sit here and continue to pound on Matt? I'm not going to. I've made myself crystal clear.
I just don't understand what you think of this team right now. I don't get it.
Okay, so Jason, here's what I think. They are a better running team than they were last year with Josh Jacobs in this run game. They're better. They're special teams. They have a kicker they know will make kicks. They're special teams.
Anna, you're going to talk about their special teams being better on a day that they gave
better than it was last year.
A punt return for a touchdown when everyone ran to the wrong guy. Today's the day we're going to talk about their special teams being better?
Tough day
Is
for
their
that.
kicking game, do you feel better about their kicking game this year than you did last year?
Undeniably.
That's all I'm saying. There was a bad play yesterday, Jason. It happens in the NFL, okay? It's definitely better than what we've seen. Is their defense playing better, and do you think it's in a better spot than what it was last year going into Dallas?
Right up until they lined up three safeties behind the line that the Bears needed to get to kick a field goal. Yes. Before that, yes, their defense was playing better.
So I understand all of your angst and all of what is being done. I get everybody's concerns. And my point is, this team, you get in the playoffs. If you find a way to beat Philly, which nobody is going to believe they can. I'm not even sure I believe they can. But if they do, I'm telling you, your tune will be completely different on Monday. And that's all I'm saying on this whole thing. So, and you think they have a puncher's chance, right? You don't think it's like no chance at all?
Again, saying that they have a chance to beat Philly and saying they're playing like garbage to finish the season when last year they went in as the hottest team heading into the playoffs, having won 3 in a row and thinking nobody wants to play them. No one in the NFC bracket is saying, ooh, I don't want to play the Packers. Ooh, I don't want to deal with them right now. They're not.
Not after yesterday. Yeah.
Not after the way they started and the way they played most of the game in Minnesota either. They scored 15 fourth-quarter points to get that game to where it was. But for most of the game, their offense was... They were not very good. That's 2 weeks in a row heading into the playoffs. You played 11 years. How many times did you go into the playoffs where you were limping and stumbling and bumbling in and thought, all right, we're in good shape? I'm not saying they can't win. I'm saying this is not, and Matt LaFleur said it, this is not how you wanted to go into the playoffs. But this is our circumstance.
Well, no blank. But I still think this is a team. Jason, who wants to lose to a bad Bears team that hadn't won since the election?
You just said it didn't matter, though. It does matter.
I don't think yesterday's game matters.
How they played mattered. How they played mattered.
Yeah, I just disagree with you. This was a preseason game. This was a preseason game. That's how it looked to me. That's how they approached it. And whether or not that's how they intended to or not, it is what it is. It didn't change anything of what was going to happen outside of the boys feeling good about where they're at.
Isn't that
These guys
important?
have played. It is. It is important.
Then what are we talking about here?
But, Jason, had they won yesterday or had they lost, do you think that the confidence in that locker room is shot? Because if you do, then I'll take a lot of credence in what you're saying.
I think there are people in that locker room that are very concerned about how they're playing, yes. I do. And they're not going to say, yeah, I can't believe how badly we're playing this. I'm really worried about what we're going to... They're not going to say that to us. Of course not. But Do they think they can't win? Have they given? Are they booking their private jets to go home? No.
That's what it sounds like from you.
No,
that's what it sounds like.
No, come on, don't do that. I am
You're
telling you, they are
me.
concerned about. They are.
You are.
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Oh, you got to win in the Super Bowl.
I want to get some calls, so we'll get to our positives and negatives after Tausch tells us about Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
Jason, I guess the question the question I have is nothing changed from yesterday outside of they played a bad game.
Right, and that's my if they and look, Xavier McKinney even said, I don't care if we would have won that game, I'd still feel bad about the way we played.
Yeah.
So, again, you're right. From a perspective of it impacting where they were in the playoff pecking order, it meant nothing. Bupkis, zilch, zero, nada. From the perspective of we didn't beat the Lions, we went to Seattle and won, we beat a really bad Saints team, then we lost to the Vikings.
That almost beat Tampa. That almost beat Tampa yesterday. They did.
Then lost to the Vikings and then lost this game. Yep. They do not feel good about how they're playing. They just don't. And that's what matters. How it affected the standings doesn't matter. The way they feel about the way they're playing, I'm telling you, the messaging was not as sunshiny as you are today.
I guess if I'm coming off sunshiny, I'm trying to come off as realistic about what's happening.
Today's poll question, does Tausch come off sunshiny?
Our kicker, 55 yards in those conditions, and boom, no problem. It makes you feel good that if it seems like, we won't be able to play a close game against Philly because they're just too good, and Green Bay's confidence is too shot. So, but if it does come down to a late kick, I think most of us feel really good about where we're at with the Green Bay kicking game. It was my biggest positive from yesterday.
Yeah, with good reason.
Packers, they don't have any chance.
All right.
Write them off. It's over. They stink because they can't beat the Bears in a glorified preseason game. Everybody overreact. That's what we're doing. Jason. Oh, it's a young team that's growth. It don't just grow all this way. It's linear. Oh, no. Okay. All right, Jason.
It's not linear. It's not linear. All right.
Retired Navy fella, send your tweet out already because I know it's coming.
So then tell me why they're so concerned.
Because, Jason, you know this, like I know this, and people that have been around locker rooms. Confidence is everything, and that's why I'm concerned. I'm not trying to sit here, and if you notice, I have backed off of that. This team is as good or is right there with the big boys. They're not. I said that after Minnesota. They're not there. And the facts are
right,
the facts.
Which goes back to the question I asked, which was, did we overestimate them for most of the year? And if you have pulled back on what we thought of them, I'm saying I did too. So that's what I don't understand what we're arguing about, because we both have come to the realization that for much of the year we thought they were better than they have turned out to be.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And for me, it was going to be Green Bay and Detroit. And whoever won the division was going to probably be in a position to have the 1 seed. And you get there, you're in command. Detroit is in command as we sit here because they don't have to play. Everything else, as everybody knows, if you feel good about what your team is, and right now Green Bay doesn't. But I'm telling you right now, you know how you flip that is by having a performance against a team that's going to be rusty. Quarterback hadn't played in a month. You win one game in the postseason, everything changes. That's why I poo-poo yesterday because, yes, your confidence is down. Sometimes that makes you bow up. Now, I don't know how they're going to react and respond to what we saw yesterday. If it's, I don't trust that my teammates are going to be able to get it done. Right now, there's no reason for this team to feel like we get in a close game against a good team, we're going to beat them. Because they haven't done it. Fair. I can't argue with you on that. But I just know how this goes, and you saw it last year. They won games. They felt a lot better going into the postseason. I agree with you. They won a game that was a playoff game, and then they beat Dallas. And then they had San Fran on the ropes. Everything changes like that. I say the NFL everything moves quickly. Well, the postseason's on steroids. Everything moves even hyper quickly. And if you find a way to knock off Philly, I'm telling you right now, conversations are going to be a lot different. But as we sit here today on 1-6, we are not one of the best teams in the NFC. We're not. But that doesn't mean we can't be for that one day. That's it.
Or for 3 days, just the first day of the playoff games, and then when they play the first seeded team, and then when they play in the NFC Championship game. What was your biggest negative, if you have one?
Oh, God. No, I do, and it was our passing game. I don't know what the heck is going on. That, if you want, why do you keep doing that? You're so annoying today. I think, where is our play-action pass game? Like, why are we not, I know LaFleur was all about, it's not about going under center. Get back to going under center, faking that stretch, booting out Jordan, getting some easy throws. Everything looks like you're pulling teeth. It is root canal city when it comes to our passing game. And if you want to be negative Nancy and think we have no chance, that would be your reasoning. But our run game is still good, and I would hope that Matt LaFleur is thinking, you know what, maybe we need to get back to doing some play-action pass and some things that will get guys open and get some easy throws so we can find a rhythm, because there were more scud balls and balls in the dirt and balls sailing. Jordan Love has not been good, guys. I don't know if that's breaking news. He has been inaccurate. He has not taken the whoop. Even in some of the other games, he has not been as good as we needed or hoped for him to be. So that's my concern. And without Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs needs to get back out there. He needs to be that guy that can catch the slants and do some stuff underneath. But without Watson, Philly is going to go man-to-man, and they're going to say, we saw what Detroit did to Minnie last night. That's what's going to happen. And you better have some big – who's going to cause big plays? Are you going to get Malik Heath out there, who did some good things? So if you want to be – this needs to be a heavy dose of Josh Jacobs and play action past these boys to death. If you don't do that, yeah, Monday will be clean-out day. Next Monday will be locker clean-out day if that is not what happens next weekend.
Yeah, when I heard Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love say after the Vikings game that we need to win our one-on-one matchups in the passing game, the first thought I had was, wait a minute, that's what Mike McCarthy used to say, and this offense is predicated on you scheming people open. So are we no longer successfully scheming people open? Is that part of the issue here?
It didn't seem like that. Where are the easy throws? So listen, here's the
correct
deal. Third down, on 3rd and 6, you got to win. There isn't scheming stuff open. You scheme guys open on 1st and 2nd down. Matt LaFleur has been really good at that. And by the way, for everybody saying fire Matt LaFleur, even though I know people have written articles about stuff we've said here, Matt LaFleur has not done a great job on things. I have been critical of when I feel like Matt LaFleur needs. Matt LaFleur is a really good ball coach.
Yeah.
He schemes guys open. For everybody that's crushing him about certain things, by the way, he can be criticized. He's the big boy. He's 6 years in, and some of the stuff that I criticized him about, I will continue to. He won a challenge yesterday. That's a positive. First one of the year. Kudos to you, Matt. But your end of the game management and how you operated stunk. It did. It was bad. It was bad. But that's not the part I'm concerned about. What I'm concerned about is what you're talking about. He has been so good at getting Tucker Kraft open in the middle, getting those bootlegs, the Kyle Shanahan, all of the stuff that this offense is predicated on. And by the way, now, we have a really good run game. Josh Jacobs, a dog. Emmanuel Wilson ran well yesterday.
He did.
Utilize that. Let's not get into run, 3rd and 6 pass. Hey, let's run some fakes. Let's take some shots. And by the way, then have some stuff underneath. Get 15-yard chunk plays is good, too. We're not doing any of that. I hope he's just kind of holding off and saying we're going to wait until Philly. But he needs to be better, and we need to get easier throws, especially if Jordan's not going to be 100%.
Look, we can all agree that just because you play poorly in your last 2 games and lose them does not mean that you can't play well next Sunday at 3:30 Central Time and beat the Eagles on the road. No one is saying, at least not on this panel, that they are incapable of winning. But trends and performances do matter, and the way you go into the postseason does matter. And yes, they were underdogs last year going into Dallas, who had not lost all season at home and who had led the league in scoring. And they played great. But my question is, I don't understand where your optimism comes from for a team who still can't get a pass rush against a guy who was sacked 67 times coming into the game.
Listen, yesterday is not the game to say that.
Just wait. I'm not done.
Okay. All right.
Against a team that is still struggling with its pass rush. Against a team, or with a team that is struggling with its quarterback being accurate even before he hit his elbow and lost feeling in his hand. With an offense that will no longer have its downfield threat, who, even when he didn't get the ball, still opened things up for other people. Okay? All those things do matter. They do. And so, can they win? I am not saying it is impossible for them to win. It is not a 0% chance. But I want to know why people feel optimism other than, well, they just won't play that way in the game against the Eagles. What is the basis for your optimism? Because the way they're playing does not lend itself to that.
Yeah, I won't argue with you on that. But I believe in this run game. I think this defense is better and can get after people. I think our front's better than what people think. Now, are they going to get home rushing 4 against Jalen Hurts? They're not. Philadelphia's offensive line 10 times better than what Chicago put out there yesterday. Chicago couldn't run a play, guys. They bubble screamed and tossed everything.
Yeah.
And until Green Bay decides to rush 3 and leave the middle of the field vacant because they think they can't get down there and spike the ball, which was completely idiotic, and everybody admitted to that afterwards. You tossed away a game you shouldn't have, and then you have my guy, my Steinhoffler, horse-collaring people idiotically at the end. So, okay, but would we have really felt that much better had Enigbare not horse-collared him and they won the game 22-21? No, I don't think we would have.
Xavier McKinney said no. But, again, it does feel different when you still win, right? When you find a way to win and your kicker comes through with a 55-yarder, like, it does feel different. And when you sit there and you think on the other side of the what-if game that without Carl Brooks' middle finger, they would have gone winless in the division, that's a tough one to think about. That's all. All right, let's get to your calls because I know Jesse. I believe
I don't know where it went from. I think I had this team being better than they were last year. They are.
They're
better.
I would disagree with that.
Okay, and did we think you said they won't win a Super Bowl? I said, you know what? If they can win the division, I like their chance. If they can't, it's gonna be tough sled. It's where they're at. So I'm not sure. We act like they can't have a bad game. Well, yeah, Jason, 17 weeks. I was marveling, outside of the Detroit first game where they stunk for most of it, how this team beat every team they were supposed to, and there were no real full game clunkers a la Jacksonville versus the New Orleans Saints 38-3. There were none of those all season. Mm-hmm. That ain't easy to do. This team is better than what they showed yesterday. Will they show that Sunday? I don't know. It's a young team that's still growing. It's linear. It's a linear
deal. It's
not
linear.
Look, I'm, a little bit concerned about the Packers going into the playoffs just because the way that they've been playing over the last 2 games. I have a question for Tausch about Matt LaFleur. Do you think that Matt LaFleur has been hesitant to show all his stuff after we clinched the playoffs. Like, it seems like he hasn't been showing all his stuff. Is he concerned about putting things on tape and holding stuff back? What do you think?
Because he's definitely not showing much.
Thanks for the call. No, I don't think he's holding things back. I think there's been some poor execution in the pass game, and I don't know what the rationale. I'm sure there's probably some trinkets that he's going to show. Yesterday, I think you put the Malik Willis out with Jordan Love to get the Philadelphia Eagles to have to practice that. That's
right.
Why you do that.
Yep,
I don't think
agreed.
that's fun. That's a little preseason-y-ish to me.
Yeah.
So, but no, as far as is he going into that game yesterday saying, "Well, we're not going to put any of the good stuff in"? No, they wanted to win. I just don't know where the mentality of the team was. Josh Jacobs saying before the game that he didn't expect to get a ton of carries. You can't be half in on this. It makes it really tough. And that's why I'm more optimistic, Jason, than I think you are, because I don't know what the approach was from yesterday other than it was not fully committed to what they were trying to do. I didn't feel like everybody was on board with that, and that's how you lose to a team that can only throw bubble screens and tosses. So that's the part of it. So I don't think, to answer your question, it's not, well, Matt LaFleur's holding everything back. No. There are things to be majorly concerned about in this passing game. I'm concerned about it.
Yeah,
Minnesota game, it's
Matt
68
LaFleur on
yards
the
or whatever
passing
it was
game.
through three quarters.
Matt LaFleur on the passing game. It hasn't been good.
Yeah.
It's extremely frustrating right now.
Yeah, I'm with him. On that.
Again, for those that tuned in late, this is what I'm talking about in terms of my estimation of where this team is. When the coach is saying that going into the playoffs, and your argument is, well, we can just flip the switch, or it's the playoffs, it's a new season, we're 0-0. That's a tough argument to make when your own coach is talking about the passing game as extremely frustrating, and it's not very good right now.
So I'm sure you, being a good reporter that you are, said, well, what's frustrating about it? Why has it been like this? Why is it regressed?
So
what did he say when you asked that follow-up?
No, that's the question today, because I would have gotten I've got to look at the film. You know I would have. You know I would have. And you know that I'm going to ask that today. So on the other part of this, and again, one of the other things that bothered me about...
That's good, Jesse. One concerned caller, zero not concerned.
Make sure you tune in on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter so you can watch the video stream. In addition to the timeout, time management at the end of the game, which obviously Homer was up in arms about.
That was not good.
There were two other things that Matt LaFleur acknowledged that I thought, One, during the week, he talked about what a colossal mistake it had been to tell the 2021 team going into the Detroit game to close out the regular season that the starters were only playing the first half, and they were half-assed as a result. Okay? But then yesterday he says the idea was to get up big and then get guys out of the game. So he said after the game. So clearly they had some idea that was the plan.
Well, Josh Jacobs' quote before the game let you know that.
Right. So it was a mistake in 21.
That's my half-pregnant.
Isn't it a mistake in 24?
That's the half-pregnant bit, and that's where you have to be decisive. And Philly took a lot of heat for not having Saquon set, but he was Wednesday or Thursday. I was like, no, they're not playing. I know it's a tough decision. It's not easy to figure that out, but you have to be very decisive as a head coach on what your approach is going to be. You can have in your mind, you could say, we are going to go and we're going full tilt. That's what we're doing. And then you can pull back. I always say it's a lot easier if you're a horse trainer to have to pull back than to continue to hit and to go, right? So just say, we're going. And then you, as a group, as coaches, can say, all right, well, hey, you know what, Josh Jacobs, we want to get him 12 carries. We want to have him do this. And then if somebody gets hurt, like we saw yesterday, you're going to get judged. And that's the hard part of this gig. But that's why you're a big boy, and that's why you get paid big boy dollars.
And the other part that I didn't like was when Rob Demovsky asked him if Watson being active was related to Romeo Doubs being sick and inactive.
I hope that's not true.
And the answer was that had a lot to do with it.
Ugh.
And what bothers me about that, look, I'm not saying that he tore his ACL because he had a sore left knee. I don't know that. I am not an exercise physiologist.
Are we sure he's got a torn ACL? I'm sure.
No, I don't know that for certain. I was told
that 3 times
because I'm fairly confident that that's what occurred here.
Okay.
But if you weren't going to play him if Romeo Doubs wasn't sick, then just have 4 wide receivers active, and if you have to go.
Get Musgrave in there. Do a little 12 personnel.
Use a tight. You got 4 tight ends active. You got Fitzpatrick, Musgrave, Kraft, and my guy Chipotle Ben Sims. You don't need to have. If you had reservations about playing Christian Watson and his dad, with a comment yesterday on social media about making the choice for the team and then turning out the way it did, like, what are we doing here? Yeah. That, I thought, was a pretty damning admission from the head coach.
I don't like that at all. I was very surprised watching the inactives come out that he was going to play. Because to me, even if he's limited when you go to Philly, having him available as a decoy or having him available for if he's not healthy completely,
like he was against
is
Dallas,
a game changer from a coverage standpoint. So that part, I can agree with you on all 3 of those, and that comes down to, the questions and where Matt LaFleur is at. He's rightfully taken a lot of criticism today.
All right, we'll get to more of your calls
but he won
coming.
A challenge. I thought his emotional capabilities yesterday were a lot better. I thought he held himself together in a good way.
Yeah, well, he must have read that column that it quoted you extensively. To Ricardo. Ricardo, good morning. Be that ray of sunshine you always are.
Of course, buddy. It's playoff season, baby. What else is there not to get excited about? There is only 14 teams. 14. You can go to Ohio. There's 3 teams there crying. Go to Florida. There's more teams crying. We are in the playoffs, baby. We're in the dance. We may have another girlfriend, but we're at the dance. That's all that matters, okay? So listen. Can we beat Philadelphia? You bet your ass we can. You know why? Because you need to accentuate the positives and hide the negatives. Our passing game is not playing very well right now, but we can run the damn ball. Our defense, our front 4, they're not getting home. But when we blitz, we have a pretty good pressure rate, all right? We can do it because we got to do it. Yep. There's nothing else to it but to do it, all right? Are we playing the best round? No. And I tell you this, and I can't call again for the rest of the week. The game is going to come down to Matt LaFleur. And what I mean by that is this. In the first quarter, we'll tell off the hop. If he goes in there clutching his fist and not playing loose and free and aggressive game plan, we will lose the game. We are the away team. We need to go and steal the victory and take the victory. They will not give it to us, all right? So none of this dinking and diving, and we need to play aggressively, 3 wideouts, down the field, push the ball, all right? There is no going home. Now the bullets are real. We need to do it. There is no tomorrow, okay? So whatever happened yesterday, I don't even think about yesterday, all right? The past is the past. You're undefeated. It's a 0-0 for everybody, okay? This is a new season. It's a new game plan. It's a new time to win. Can we win the Super Bowl? You're damn right, because there's 14 teams in the playoffs, and we're one of them. That's what we need to think about going forward. The time to be negative will be if we're eliminated from the playoffs. Not right now, okay? We need to push forward.
Amen.
We need to give them as much momentum as possible. It's the playoffs, baby. Anything can happen. Woo!
Yes, indeed. Atta baby, Ricardo. So a couple things, though, he kind of counterbalanced himself a little bit there. I agree with him when he said, well, the passing game is struggling. You pound the football, but then you don't go 3 wides and air it out. Like, there's a balance there. this needs to be – I think Josh Jacobs needs to be 30-plus. If we're going to win, he needs to have 30 touches on Sunday. And you need to get the play action. This needs to be a Kraft Jacobs game. That's it. Those two need to be the dogs, and then you need to get some turnovers from – I think Jalen Hurts is going to be rusty. I think Xavier McKinney is going to get him. I think you're going to see the defense is going to have at least 2 turnovers, and if that happens, they'll beat Philly. Those are big asks, but we have 2 dudes that have been really great pickups, and they need to be the elevators if you're going to find a way to beat Philly Sunday.
I was expecting a little more substance to Ricardo's boosting comments.
I liked it, though. Fired up.
Yeah, he's fired up. They're in the dance. Mike and Madison on the Carbless Talk and text line. Momentum is a state of mind. And it was disheartening for Jordan Love to say, but does it matter regarding the loss? Yes, it does matter, Jordan. A win is positivity that carries throughout preparation for the playoffs. Tausch, I want you to address this, then we'll get to more calls. Mentality-wise, okay, you're an analyst now. You're not a player. Correct. Is your positivity that you have delivered this morning you as an analyst, or is that how you would be feeling if you were still the starting right tackle instead of Zach Tom?
I think if I'm in that locker room, I'm concerned, but I'm also excited if I know the guys in the locker room and how they respond. This has been a team that has not had a ton of adversity. They've had a couple of tough losses. It's been that kind of season. You know the guys you have in that locker room, and there is just a big difference. Once that postseason hits, it's a new era, new game, and I think it will be of utmost importance. And, Jess, you can put this down for Friday's show. Key to the game is needing to start fast and because that positivity and that belief, that is a really important thing. I think it's really important for young teams, especially in the beginnings of seasons, to get a little confidence going, because confidence is in every sport. Don't care if it's youth hockey, if it's college football, whatever. It is a vital thing, but you can recapture it. Mm-hmm. It's not some fleeting thing that just goes. It can get away from you, and it's too late, but it is something that can be recaptured. Green Bay has to recapture it, and I do believe you got a bunch of good dudes that can recapture it. And I think there is enough talent to win. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm optimistic. But the facts are the facts. This passing game and where we're at, and I don't know where Jordan's at health-wise. It sounds like he's going to be able to play. Mm-hmm. Sounds like it's more of a nerve thing than anything else. So if that's alleviated from the conversation, now we got to figure out how can we get you to perform and be more efficient than what you've been.
At one point, both their quarterbacks had hand injuries.
Well, I was going to say Malik Willis took one of the biggest shots you're ever going to see. I don't know if they were supposed to leave that dude unblocked.
I don't believe they were.
It looked like he split his sternum in half. That looked violent.
And not only that, but on his fantastic throw to Malik Heath, who makes a great catch to get them in position for that touchdown, he injures his hand, and then on the two-point conversion, he can't grip the ball. Which
not great.
Not what you're looking for on a two-point conversion play when you choose to pass.
You know what I loved about yesterday, too? It just, and again, I know this isn't a Bears show. The Bears go for 2 to go up 9, which, by the way, I totally disagree. I understand the premise, but I think it's idiotic.
Yeah.
And then they get a penalty to move it closer, and they decide to kick.
And then they kick, yeah.
That tells you that tells you that there's no actual principle behind the analytics of what the hell they're talking about. Because
no doubt.
Okay. All right, we're on the same page.
Let's go to Eric in Green Bay. Eric, good morning. Thanks for holding on. What do you got for us?
Hey, boys. How you doing?
Hey,
Great.
Eric.
How are you?
Doing all right. Currently feeding a baby a bottle right now. So during the commercial break, kind of doing that clock management of how much milk do we have left versus when is this call going to happen. So we'll hope I have a better clock management than LaFleur yesterday at the end.
Well, not a very high bar.
Has LaFleur become McCarthy with clock management?
We're all in this sucker together.
I can't believe I can't believe I'd ask that question. But go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say, this is coming from a program that famously doesn't always have the best clock management, too. So we'll kind of scoot that aside.
Very frustrating.
It's a fair criticism. You want us to argue with Eric? He's right.
Eric, your point,
we'll
please.
hop right into negatives right away. And for me, the biggest thing, too, was, and for background, I am a physical therapist. When I saw that Christian Watson was coming in yesterday, last minute, my fear was that it was related to Romeo Doubs. And that's, again, it's one of those things like, is the bone bruise directly related to the ACL? Probably not. But if you are compensating, you are more likely to have other injuries, even to the opposite leg. From the look of that injury, it looked, again, non-contact, it looked very ACL-y. Jason, I know you mentioned yesterday that they can do a couple tests. You mentioned a drawer test. That's an anterior drawer test, otherwise a Lockman test. And on the field, the athletic trainers and therapists can do a pretty good job. If it's positive, it's one of those things that's going to show pretty quick. You can have a false negative, similar to what Tauscher had back in the day with his MCL. But it's one of those tests that if it's positive, you kind of know early. And then looking at the body language of him leaving the field, oof. And lastly with that, it just the tough thing for Christian Watson, even beyond the playoffs, obviously, because that's a pretty easy narrative. You just feel for the guy. He's going to be due for a contract, eligible for a contract extension today. And the fact that he went out there with his buddy Romeo going down and said, you know what, I'm going to suit up in a game that's pretty meaningless, it again speaks a lot on his character. So it's tough to see bad things happen to good people.
Yeah. It undeniably is. Thanks for the call, Eric. Look,
well, just wait, Eric. Concerned, not concerned? Are you?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Oh, for ACL?
Concerned's going to win this.
No, are you concerned about the team right now?
The team.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say ACL. Very concerned. For the team right now, yeah, it's one of those things right now. We talked a lot about momentum, and I think had we either committed to playing all backups and just kind of, taking the approach the Chiefs did yesterday, then it's kind of like a preseason game. It's whatever. But the fact that we were kind of half in, half out, and we had enough guys trying that
can't be half pregnant.
Now that you lost the way you did, yeah, if the mindset was to go in and get up by 100 and then put in the backups, yeah, we certainly didn't do that. It's not like we were winning when Jordan Love went out and when Watson went out. So there's concern.
Thanks for the call, Eric. So Ricardo counts as not concerned only because his default setting is that he's never concerned, and it's the playoffs.
Did that sound like a guy concerned to you? It sure didn't to me.
Sounded like a guy who's unfailingly positive, going through a number of negatives during his call, which may, for Ricardo, count as concerned. Let's keep going with the calls. 844-770-3776. That is the Carbless Talk and text line. Let's go to Jeremy in Florida. Jeremy, good morning. Welcome to Wilde and Tausch. Are you concerned or are you not concerned?
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
You bet.
Hey, man, yeah, I'm concerned, but I'm concerned more from the top down, guys. I know Goody's done a great job, but just looking from last year's draft, man, we got tackle Jordan Morgan, didn't play our year. Edrin Cooper, we criminally used him, we underused him. Safety Javon Bullard, we used him too much. He wasn't ready. Marshawn Lord, we didn't play at all on IR season. Tyron Hopper, the linebacker from Missouri, we should have saw him. We didn't see him all year, basically. Evan Williams, our fourth rounder, was our best draft pick, and he was a fourth rounder. Our offensive tackle, Jacob Monk, barely saw him. Ketan Oladapo, we barely saw him. Michael Pratt's no longer with us. Cornerback Kalen King, with all the injuries, he never got moved up from the practice squad so we could see him. So we got one player on there, Evan Williams, the only player that actually contributed to this year's success.
And Cooper,
then we got Matt LaFleur.
Cooper's been good.
We got Matt LaFleur, who we got the ball back with the interception. Matt LaFleur is hiking the ball at 20 seconds instead of telling Malik, "Hey, run the clock down to 3 seconds, hike the ball." Why did the Bears get the ball back with like 50-something seconds on the clock? And then lastly, Jeff Hafley on the defense. Why are we running prevent defense with guys at the end zone waiting on a touchdown as if they don't need 3 points to score? So I'm very concerned because it's more top down.
Yeah, so Jeremy, I think there's a couple things you addressed there. Look, draft classes. First of all, I think 𝙒𝘃𝙁 Cooper has been fantastic. He makes a lot of mistakes. And so they've been trying to find the sweet spot between he makes a lot of plays and he makes a lot of mistakes. And I think they've actually done a pretty good job of that because you heard him even after the Minnesota game where he had 4 tackles for loss. Matt LaFleur talking about how it was a mixed bag of 𝙿𝘃𝙁𝙁, his performance. So I'm okay with that. Evan Williams has been great. They miss him. They need him back this week, and I don't know if that's going to happen or not. So they feel there's been some good things there. Now, the 2 things that I want to address. Last one first. I don't understand why. Look at the wide view of the defense on the final completion to set up the field goal. Jeremy is right. They are playing beyond the 30-yard line. Now, they're not playing down at the goal line for a Hail Mary necessarily, but they're way too far. They're way too deep. I don't understand it. So that's a fair critique. Now, my question to you, Tausch, because Homer was very riled up about the timeout and the clock management before the go-ahead field goal. Now, if you are going to criticize Matt LaFleur for being indecisive there on a 55-yard field goal and calling the timeout, I understand that, okay? But I don't have a problem with them snapping the ball in the 3rd down play with 20 seconds left because I don't think with Malik Willis at quarterback, they know what they're going to have. And I'm not sure that Matt LaFleur, despite pregame kicking, which according to Bill Huber, Brandon McManus made one from 58 yards during pregame warmups. Matt LaFleur wasn't sure if he wanted to kick it there. That's why he called the timeout. Yep. And did he get frazzled by the fact that the 3rd down and 2 play lost 2 yards to then leave them on 4th and 4? He was thinking he had to go for it. And then he calls the timeout. Rich Bisaccia and Brandon McManus convince him to kick it. They do. He makes it. My issue is the way they handled it defensively. We're not crushing LaFleur for his time management if they execute better defensively. Does he deserve criticism for his time management? No doubt. No doubt. Indecisive? No doubt. But Tausch, help us understand from your perspective as a former player, how badly did LaFleur bungle that situation, in your estimation?
Yeah, it was bungled. I also give a little bit of grace because that's a long kick. I think they assumed they'd get the 1st down, run the clock out, and go about their business.
Right.
But you have to be ready for every situation. You have to understand, well, we don't get anything. Are we kicking it here? Do we run it down? You force Chicago to use that last timeout because if they do that, then they don't get in position. All of those things are in play. That needs to be a collaboration between Matt and Jordan.